You guys, hi there. It's Celine. It's Saturday, and okay, hang on. I forgot to turn off the sound of the phone, like so. Yes, that's better. Then at least we won't be disturbed by any, humming and beeping and screeching noises as we try to do this. I was hesitating whether to come on again, but I want to because things are piling up, in a way. So, yeah. I did a vlog on Thursday, so it's just less than 48 hours ago, about gaslighting, the whole thing, and what my experience has been like with being stuck in somebody else's reality with them, and what that was like to a certain extent. You can find the video on my channel easily enough. I have gone down a sort of a self investigation rabbit hole with this whole thing, and I don't know whether there's other people going through this kind of a thing. I find that if I do this, I actually feel more in sync with the vibes around me, as if I am meant to do this kind of work. So shadow work, bring it on, make my day kind of a attitude about things. Not scared, or if I'm scared, just feel it. Just be aware of whatever is going on for me, right? It's tough and it's draining and it's exhausting. And I suppose we just can't go back to what used to be normal anyway, so there you go. Astrology has been my great friend in all this. I realized, and I have to think a bit what it was exactly that I was saying in my vlog earlier, about this whole thing where we are in a relationship with some people, often more than one people, more than one person, or in consecutive relationships where the same pattern happens again and again, that we actually can't make room inside ourselves for different perspectives. And long after even we have liberated ourselves from the actual physical constraints of a gaslighting relationship where we were supposed to always do what they wanted only, or be what they wanted, long after that, there's still fallout inside. I realized, and this is going to sound really bad, and it is, because it is, I can't mince words here, that my parents, I'm 55, okay, I shouldn't give a damn about those attitudes anymore, but it's all still there. It is written in my DNA in a way, or it is written down the insides of my veins all over. And there is plenty moments where this kind of a programming, or whatever you want to call it, comes to the surface again. The programming is this. Put dramatically, which is where I come from and which is what it would have sounded like back in the day, it's like this. I wasn't interesting enough as a person to hate. Okay? Yeah, I don't like it either. I don't like to say this kind of a thing, but I just had to, because it's one of the only real purposes of this channel, I think, to bring out that kind of stuff. I wasn't interesting enough. The thing is, I didn't register for them. So the astrology bit, I was saying just now how helpful astrology has been to me. I've been thinking for quite a while now to do a video or something, more about astrology, because I find it invaluable. In this particular case, we're talking about Mercury, and the way Mercury sees the world around us and interprets, things inside us and how that works. And basically, very simply, the difference between Mercury direct people and Mercury retrograde people. That's been like walloping me over the head over the past year. Again and again, I've been having these realizations, these moments like, okay, it just falls into the whole Mercury direct versus retrograde category again. Because it does. And for me, for my husband, both of us have Mercury retrograde. Our parents, both our parents, for both of us, 4 people have Mercury direct. So there's a huge difference in vibe. There's a huge difference between Mercury direct people and Mercury retrograde people in vibe, okay? In how you go about things. And I think it's at least a year ago or so that I realized that this was affecting my background and that this was important for me in my background, okay? Where the fact that my parents, regardless of their house positions and all the other things in their charts, had Mercury direct, not only direct, but in Aries as well, that they had that formed their attitude towards me quite a bit, because I didn't. My Mercury is sitting right on the edge between Cancer and Leo, the very beginning of Leo, 0 point something or other, and is retrograding. So it's like I don't know what to think, really. I may come across as fairly confident, I suppose, because I tend to be rather a laid back and relaxed and more or less happy type person normally. I've had enough years on this planet to, care a lot about some things and not care that much anymore about other things and make my path with those things. I just have the years for that. And it's not that I don't make decisions. On the contrary, I do, but I don't unless I absolutely have to. And I am a person who likes to incorporate as many perspectives as possible into a decision or into a worldview or a point of view. A perspective should always consist of more layers, and that's more interesting to me. It's something I keep fiddling with, and I think that's the Mercury retrograde right there. My husband does the same thing. He doesn't mind at all coming back to a perspective, say, of a week earlier. You just don't mind doing that. You can come back to earlier perspectives again and again and again and rehash and regurgitate and redigest everything over and over. It's just one way of going about things. There may be other aspects to Mercury retrograde that I'm not going into at this point, or that work differently for other people. That's quite possible. I'm not saying what I'm saying here is like the alpha and omega of the Mercury business. It's just what I have found, okay? This is what it's looked like to me. And Mercury direct people, especially Mercury direct in Aries people, and there would be quite a number of other signs where the same thing would happen, like Taurus and Capricorn and Leo and Virgo. I'm just off the top of my head here, where Mercury direct in that sign would lead to the same, what for us feels like rashness, lack of thoughtfulness, those kinds of things. Over speedy, quick decision making, and in all a general kind of a, hastiness, not taking any time to think, to digest, and so on and so forth. Also to the detriment of the person themselves. In the case of my parents, they had quite a lot of life that they should have been able or have had time or had opportunities to, work through for themselves. Painful large painful parts and episodes in their lives that they should have had time and space for to process. And it seems to me like those people, certainly my own parents and maybe my in-laws as well, just didn't register. And so there's a couple of other astrological hooks and needles and eyes to this whole thing here that I won't bore you with. But for me, realizing that my parents just programmed me with a sense of wanting to be invisible. A lot of times, this will be relatable for quite a number of people out there, huh? Won't it? Won't it just? Where if you're invisible or unseen, at least you're free, or it feels free for you to make up your own mind and make up your own decisions. It's like you have no choice really in all those things. And for me, I've gone over a long period of time, nearly 6 years by now, of constantly having to look for connection in my life, having to search enormous lengths of time, spending endless hours energizing my life in terms of connection. And now by now it is more easy and more feels a lot more natural. My life has become what it should be for me. Okay, that's what it feels like. It's still very much in progress, but work in progress, you know, like all of us. So I wanted to say this. I've wanted to say this for quite a while now, and I was noticing earlier, looking at my astro theme daily chart for today, that still the 5 larger planets are all retrograding at the moment. And so from Jupiter on outwards, they're all going backwards or seemingly going backwards. And it seems like there's a heaviness in the air. And if I just work on healing things, then it's okay for me, what it looks like. You know, my life tends to work out okay if I just pace myself, pay attention to details, do things that I am given to do in a way, you know. So one thing I was given to do, which is the other thing I wanted to come out and show you guys, is I got me a box, and it looks like so, from the thrift store. It's got these cute ladies on with their tea. It's a tea box originally. It says Assam tea on the back. Yes. Tea as in Dutch, you know. And inside I have stored all my little bottles of graveyard dirt and other types of dirt in a mixture, a set mixture in coconut and beeswax, coconut oil and beeswax, mixed together. You know, I will at one point show you how I do these. There's a couple of things added to these in order to sort of, it just felt like the right thing to do. And what you get is I have 15 in here by now, and this lining I also put in myself, glued that in with wood glue, you know, in a way which is like a multi-purpose glue, and it has the lining all the way in the bottom, as you can see, which I think is really cute. And so now my bottles, which were just sitting on my countertop here, actually have a place to live. So that makes me really happy. I was going to go through these and show you, and I will probably do a top-down video for that at some point, because, you know, I just can't help myself. This is something that's been fascinating me, and it's been on my mind. Apparently it's one of those things that I have to do, and it seems like what I notice each time I handle these is they are different. Okay, so the base ingredient set, the coconut oil and beeswax and the patchouli powder and charcoal powder mix that goes in there, as well as a set of 2 different essential oil mixtures that goes in here. They're all the same, and still there is a very noticeable difference. Well, very noticeable, no. It is um, subtle. And it's a different type of vibration from having the essential oils by themselves. Of course, you should ideally, in a scientific context, have a neutral bottle with a different type cap or something, noticeable, where you would have all the ingredients apart from your dirt business. I haven't done that yet. It doesn't feel like I need to do that necessarily. So there's dirt from graveyards, several different locations, Catholic and Protestant. There's a crossroads dirt, which looks like this. It's a lot darker because it has forest floor, dark peat-like ground earth in it. Several dirts from chapel floors, and so on and so forth. A couple of things. And if I sit with these, so 2 or 3 of them in my hands, and the best way for me to test this is to just sit and read something innocuous, something that doesn't occupy my whole mind, like a novel or a comic. I will sit with these bottles in my hand while reading my book, and my body registers the subtle differences between the flasks. It's like they each has its own voice in a way. So I find that fascinating. I haven't really gone into determining, because I don't want to. At this point, I don't want to put names on things. I find them empowering, okay? They're empowering in the sense that I feel strength coming into me because I'm holding either one of those. It doesn't matter which one it is. And they're subtly different, but they're all very supportive in a different way somehow. And I'm noticing now also, because I know I have stickers on them. Each one says where they're from, of course. So I'm noticing now that often it isn't so much about, it depends, the vibe depends to a large extent on how much human interaction there has been with the earth. And so I think graveyard dirt in these are the strongest, if you like, in the sense that they're the most specifically, they're even therapeutic. I think they're quite therapeutic. You can carry them around in your pocket. I've done that, They're supportive, and they bring, to me, they bring even a sense of humor in a way. So that's a large difference between anything that's graveyard, because there is in the earth, to me, most of all, there is a sense of the transience of things and the strength of things, and the sort of a calculation, if you like, in the vibe, in the energy is being made, and the end result is positive of the calculation. In all graveyard dirt, really. There's always, and Protestant graveyard dirt so far that I've worked with are sterner, more demanding of us to use than Catholic ones. Catholic ones are more forgiving, if that makes any sense. And the other ones, all the other ones, they have had less human interference. So chapel dust, and this one is from a dolmen. What's that called? Like a passage tomb in a way, prehistoric passage tomb. But the dirt actually that I gathered came from inside the passage tomb. But it was reconstructed really carefully, really beautifully in the south of France. And at the moment I'm actually sitting here and handling this and talking to you, what I'm getting is the vibration of the river that is close by. The earth is influenced much more by currents of water and stream water, the nature, the character, if you like, the personality of the combination of the landscape sitting around it with that running water going through it all the time, 24/7, right? Like 365 days a year, always. The presence of the river is in here. And comparing this one then to, where did it go? My, this is from a Roman sanctuary that we visited where there's a holy well. The well has been sacred for thousands of years, and the Romans just came in there and incorporated the shrine into their religious activities in that area. It's a great place. I have vlogs on the other phone about this, and I think, yes, I remember distinctly vlogging there, so I will put those up if I ever get my phone back, which, yay, you know. Holding these together, so this is the holy shrine that has a well coming out of the earth. The water of the well comes out of the hillside higher up. There's lots of cavities in the hillside, and there's water coming up at that point into the well. And the Romans and the people living there before, Celts and Bronze Age people, you know, venerated the well for its special qualities. If I talk about this, I can actually feel that this flask sort of resonates with what I'm saying, which is rather neat, you know. There's a dimension or a quality of dedication, if you like, which the river one doesn't have. This is just the natural flow of things. It really is very interesting. The earth has a memory. That's the bottom line of this whole operation here. The earth has a memory of a lot of things. And whenever there's humans, there's like a heightening of the nature of the things it becomes like there's a purpose to things that are remembered, the things that are remembered in the earth, in the dirt. Isn't that cool? I think that's pretty neat. And most of this type of it's a vibration research thing that I'm doing here. So I'm not so much into particular ghost presences. I will not harvest or collect dirt from individual graves, preferably because I don't want to bring stuff into my house that doesn't belong here. And the dirt, that kind of dirt, belongs in the grave, as far as I'm concerned, okay? It's just how I feel. I don't work with that. It would be different if it was your tribe and your relatives and you have reasons for doing that. I'm thinking that would make sense. For me, that doesn't make sense. The closest I come to a personal connection, it looks like I'm going to show you my dirts at this point anyway, because it's fun anyway. The closest I come to a personal kind of connection is this one. And this is another kind of an interesting one. This is a graveyard dirt that I collected from a site where actually there's a grave of a murder victim. So that's already terrible, you know, who was Jewish, and they created like a separate little Jewish cemetery, one person Jewish cemetery, inside the rest of the Protestant, it is, graveyard around a church in a village not so far away from here. So there's like a different space surrounded by yew hedges, of course. There's yews all over, and I'm all interested in yew trees again, because the yew tree always shows that there's a border, a spiritual, um, frontier between spaces. That's been the case always in Europe anyway, since forever, since the old days, I think. Um, I took the dirt that is in here, in combination with the other ingredients, like I told you just now. I took it from the exact middle of the hedge. So the hedge is like this wide, okay? I went with my hand down to the middle part of the hedge, which is like this big. It's not big at all. And dug out some of the dirt there. So there's a yew tree kind of an influence in there as well. And there is a borderline influence between the Jewish community and the Protestant community going on more than anything else. I wouldn't have been comfortable, again, to collect actual dirt from inside the surrounded, boxed in area, because that just feels wrong to me. You're not supposed to. So I did also bring a pretty stone that I had still happened to have in my pocket, from the Alps, and left that because that's a good gesture for when you're visiting a Jewish grave, to just bring a stone. It's a sign of memory. So I noticed for myself that this is very personal. This one in particular has a personal sort of a psychotherapeutic kind of a quality for me, in that it sits between Protestant life and Jewish life in a way. I still want to obtain some kind of a dirt sample somewhere from a Jewish graveyard for myself, because it's a part of my life that I haven't been able to be in contact with for, past historical reasons. But it's the history of the person who is actually buried in this particular graveyard. I just felt myself that I had to do it in this manner, to sort of acknowledge as much as possible the different aspects to the whole situation, rather than his personal life, even though I can relate to parts of his experience a bit, I haven't gone through his experience, of course. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here. So, I'm mainly left with a sense of sorrow for what they had to go through, all those people. And it's a very, very remote, but as soon as it becomes more human, the dirt thing, okay, the vibration thing, as soon as it becomes more and more human, it becomes it's harder and more useful to handle, to work with. It's like there's knowledge in here. Whoever has handled those spaces, people have handled that space, that decided that this area was going to be a teeny tiny one-person Jewish graveyard, Jewish cemetery, instead of it conforming to the dedications of the Protestant graveyard around it. I didn't film there because I hardly ever film in actual graveyards because I find it uncomfortable, and then again, I just don't want to publicize that kind of a thing. I want to talk about the things, that definitely. Yesterday I visited another interesting graveyard in my village that has a gorgeous old brick tower sitting on it that is probably left over from an old church building. It's only the towers left now, and it's a Catholic graveyard that's still in full use, and it has also a sets of different spaces for different things, which is normal, and there's also a triangular fenced in corner that has a huge black beech tree sitting in it, and I believe about 8 or 9 stone graves that are of the Protestant persuasion. And over there, I'm uncomfortable because I feel there's conflict between what's there and the space around it. The worldviews are so different, even within this country, within the same graveyard. There's like if it makes me uncomfortable too, even though the shots and the photos are beautiful, the images are gorgeous in terms of atmosphere, it looks really good with those gorgeous trees. There's a dead tree that they're leaving out to the other side. So you can take great photos of the whole tree setup with the tower at the back and all that. And I still have this, because there's a conflict in the approach to life. I have collected some dirt from the foot of the tower, which hasn't been processed into one of these yet. But I will continue on doing this because it's so interesting. So this one about the Jewish boy actually has a special place for me, and I think that's good enough. It's fine that way. So, anything else? I can go on about my dirts. I have several others, from natural sites or from historical sites and things that I was going to go get some dirt from a crypt of a church as well, but I couldn't because they'd closed it all down for the summer anyway. So that was a bit of a pity, and that's the end of that, I think, to that extent. There may be other places where wherever I go out on trips or anything, I always keep an eye out for this kind of. And what I do is just have a simple paper handkerchief, and I look where, whether I don't disturb people doing what I'm doing. I collect some of the dirt, preferably just out of the earth, itself, away from graves or as much as possible, but within the particular space that we're looking at, interested in. And I fold that up and I write down on top of the handkerchief what it is, the name of the location where I got it. And then afterwards the dirt goes into one of these, and I add my patchouli powder and charcoal powder mix and my oils. And then you have to sort of stir the beeswax and coconut. You have to melt until it gets really hot and liquid, and you can stir that in here. You have to shake it up, close the lid of the bottle, and then shake it and knock it around and so on for it to mix properly. So that tends to be a bit of alchemy, So less drama again, which connects me slightly to my earlier subject about not being interesting enough to hate. I hate that expression. I think my mother always complained about my father being a really high color person, In his life, everything always needed to be high color, very obvious, and contrast visible and so on. I don't hate contrast necessarily, but I'm just of a different type of mold altogether. I come out of a different mold, different shape, myself. And I've been told often enough that I don't notice subtleties enough. I know why that is now, because I haven't been taught subtleties. It's just in my nature. So there's another really important aspect for me to be aware of in my daily life. The way I react to my husband, who's at work at the moment, he'll be home any time now, is the same as I reacted to my parents back in the days. I still react in the same ways. I still desperately crave attention, which is why I come out here, talk to you guys, of course, and want to be invisible at the same time. So, you just have to make do with those kinds of things. And I realized that I did a lot of journaling again, with all these types of subjects, trying to become aware of where it hurts. And that's the most important thing to do. That's the only thing I can do. And just be me, just be who you are. And that may take a while. It may take a while to figure out how it is that you, as long as you, because I've absorbed the ways that were natural for other people. The way I grew up is just very normal, I'm afraid. It's just lots and lots of people are in the same situation where they've adapted themselves endlessly. So you're not even talking about gaslight type situations anymore necessarily, even though it may still be qualified as such. But you're not really yourself. It's a very scary thought. But you can become yourself. There's my husband. Thank you for watching. Bless you. Love you to pieces. Okay? See you next time, next week. Okay? Ciao.